Thank you for deciding to listen to this 30-minute presentation on interest rates in your portfolio. My name is Bruce Friesen. I am the President of Global Investment Solutions. This is the presentation I gave at the Canadian Association of Mutual Insurance Companies Conference on September 10, 2013. Embedded in this presentation, as a result, are a couple of insurance-related comments. But without further ado, this is the presentation, Interest Rates in Your Portfolio. I'm a Winnipegger, and as a Winnipegger, you know something about floods. In this picture, you can see that the flood forecasters have set the level for this year's flood, marked by this string and this line with the flag on these posts. The landowner has built his sandbag dike to that level. To not heed their warning would be foolish. Forecasters are accurate in terms of date and time and crest of the flood. So why are we talking about floods? Floods are not relevant to this topic, but being forewarned is. In this chart, you can see the Dex Canada yield from 1980 all the way through to current times. At the start, you can see interest rates were around 18%, and now they're down around 1%. So which way now? Up, down, sideways? You've probably enjoyed some very good returns from this tailwind of having decreasing interest rates over that 30-year period. So where do we go now? And do we care? Well, Guggenheim Partners related in a current report, in the current environment, we believe the surest route to underperformance is to remain anchored to the past. In other words, to continue to do what got you to this point. To understand the implications of continuing this thought process, we have to understand duration. And duration is a mathematical term that looks at the way of measuring the time to maturity of either a liability or a bond. As every kid knows, longer means further. In duration means more effect. In this catapult, a longer arm would mean the walnut goes further. We need to understand duration effect. This is math. This is not an opinion. This is how the pricing of a bond works. You can see in this teeter-totter, at this end, we say this is interest rates. At this end, it's bond prices. And if you assume this is 0 years and this is 30 years, you get more movement in bond prices for any given level change in interest rates for the longer of the duration. In my examples, I use 100 basis points, which is the same as 1%, as a way of determining the math effect of the change of duration. In this example, a duration of 4 years, then the interest rate rise of 100 basis points, the value of your portfolio goes down by 4%. If your duration was 7 years, for an interest rate rise of 100 basis points, the value of your portfolio would go down by 7%. This is math. This is not like the stock market where things can be different depending on different circumstances. This is simply math. So the question is, can interest rates go up by 100 basis points? Well, very recently, Ben Bernanke, the Federal Reserve Chairman, was speaking, and he made one comment about taking away stimulus from the marketplace. In taking away that stimulus, if market determined that to be negative, and within a short week, you can see here, interest rates rose 1%. At these current levels, interest rates can easily move 1%. The goal is to prevent damage to your portfolio from the rise of interest rates, and we have to look at that and see if that's worth doing. To do that, we look at the effect of an interest rate rise on the value of your portfolio. You can see over here, for a $50 million portfolio, if interest rates rise 2%, you will lose roughly $7 million on the value of your portfolio. So the question is, can you handle a $7 million loss? Or more importantly, do you think interest rates can go back to 4%? Because if you do, the loss is going to be much higher than 7%, than $7 million, pardon me. So where are interest rates going to go from here? Where will they be a year from now? We think that down is for the most part over. Up is the risk. Like the flood, it's not if it's going to happen, it's when. So what can be done? Well, there are options, and we can look at these options in the presentation. One option is to do nothing. You can assume that your portfolio is immunized or that you can withstand the losses, or you can decide you don't want to withstand the losses and you can do things like shorten duration through some classic strategies, and we'll discuss them, and look at some new strategies and see if we can't make some additional return while immunizing your portfolio. Regulations say you have to be invested in fixed income for those in the insurance business, and we are looking for ways to comply and still earn a rate of return. So let's explore these options. Do nothing. Well, in the case of Winnipeg, to do nothing is a problem. Do you want to be the one that explains to your unit holders or your policy holders that the loss they took was because you did nothing? You can take a loss in a Government of Canada bond portfolio if interest rates rise. We need to understand this effect. So, what are options? We can shorten duration. You can see in this yield curve here that the interest rates at the short end of the curve are around 1%, and over at the long end they're around 3%. So if we shorten duration, if we come down, we give up yield. Where instead of earning 3% out here, we earn 1% out here. No risk, no return. So shortening duration has its costs. A couple of classic strategies. 3-year Government of Canada's would pay around 1.5%. 3-year single A rated corporate bonds pay around 2.25%. And 3-year mortgage portfolios pay around 3%. There are no high paying options in the classic strategies, except that they will prevent you from losing money if interest rates rise because you'll have a short duration. So let's look at new strategies. There are new strategies that can be found in the crazy math world. We saw in 2007 some of the mathematical wizardry that went on in the mortgage market. Or we can look at proven strategies. We can look at what the stodgy bankers have done to make money in these interest rate environments where they did not want to take interest rate risks. In the 1960s, in the space race, NASA was trying to find a new pen, a pen that would work in zero gravity, in extreme cold, extreme hot, that they could take on their space journeys. This was going on fine, spending a lot of money, but was not being successful. Finally, someone said, let's look for a proven strategy. The pencil. The pencil was a proven strategy that could work in all those environments. And we want to look for proven strategies. So what are some of the proven strategies that are different than the classic strategies? Well, here are some new strategies that we think make a difference for your portfolio. High yield bonds are low-grade bonds that have a higher default risk, but in a well-diversified portfolio can be an extra source of income. Similarly, alternative mortgages, the institutional version of household finance. If you can't get a mortgage for a house, you can always go to, from the banks, you can always go to household finance. Similarly, in the institutional world, if the banks won't put a mortgage on your building, you can go to alternative lenders. And these alternative mortgages are now available in a high diversified portfolio, which is appropriate. Or proprietary trading strategies, and those are opportunistic trading that again are available in today's world. The last one is credit arbitrage, and that's the one we're going to use today just as a way of highlighting one example of some of these new strategies. But these new strategies are things that you should research for your organization. The example today is the credit arbitrage zero duration strategy. The goal is to show you one example of something you can do that's new and innovative, yet using proven methodology. And this is not the solution, but it may be a part of the solution for you. To understand the credit arbitrage strategy, we need to understand how a corporate bond is priced. The corporate bond yield has two components: the yield of a similar Government of Canada bond and a spread, which is the extra yield for the extra risk. For example, a 5-year Government of Canada bond yield is 1.8%. A Schedule 1 bank like TD, Bank of Montreal, would pay a bank spread of about 1% on top of that. So the yield that in total that the bank would have to pay is 2.8%. Looking at that another way, we have the yield curve, which shows from 0 to 30 years of maturity, and along the y-axis you have yield to maturity. So this is the yield for the Government of Canada's in the green, and the premium that a bank would have to pay is in the blue. So part 1 is the Canadian yield curve, part 2 is the premium. So you can see for 5 years we have 1.8% for the Government of Canada, an additional 1% for the bank premium to get to 2.8%. These numbers change as you move out along the term to maturity. So let's look at those two parts. Part 1 was the Government of Canada. As you can see, the interest rates have come down, but they've come down in a very volatile manner. There's been lots of volatility. And if you look at the premium portion has been relatively stable over that same time period, except for in 2007 when things spiked out, but they came right back in. They have stayed in this band between 40 basis points and 1.6 percentage points. So the part 1, the volatility of the Government of Canada changed from 18% to 11%, from 6% to 2%. There's been lots of big volatile swings. The spread or the premium that the banks had to pay has been relatively stable. So when faced with volatility that they don't want, what do banks do? They hedge. Hedging is a well-known practice to take away volatility. Banks use it, farmers use it. Farmers use it to lock in a price for their crop even before they plant the crop. And they will look to mark in that profit at a time when they know that the profit is available. We want to look at how we take volatility away from our previous example. In our previous example, we saw this was part 1 was the Government of Canada, part 2 is the premium. So what we'd like to do is make the Government of Canada part, the volatile part, go away. And we can do that. We can find a way to hedge away that risk. The problem is we now only earn 1% in the 5-year. We're only earning that 1% premium. So we have to buy a lot more of this than we would if we had to buy a whole bond. But we're left with a stable piece. The other effect that comes from doing this is we've taken our duration to 0. If you remember back to our teeter-totter, when interest rates go down, bond prices go up. When interest rates go up, bond prices go down. And the further out of the teeter-totter you are, the further the whip you get. Well, by hedging away the part 1, the Government of Canada part, you move your duration to 0. For you in the insurance world, this is very effective when you're looking to match your liabilities and their bond duration. To earn a return with 0 duration is a very, very effective thing from that interest rate shock test that's involved in your MTC score. So we look at these things and we can have either a whole bond, like the bricks, which has all this over here, or we can buy a whole bunch of that premium. If we buy a whole bunch of the premium, we still have the same risk. We just have risks that we now want to hold. We have risks that we believe we can control. So the question is, so does it work? This chart shows the performance of bond portfolios over time. In the current box over here where the marker is, it shows 4-year returns to June 2013. The bottom line representing the worst performer, the top line the best performer. The darker line, the median performer. And so you'll see the red dot is the DEX mortgage market total return. It has a short duration. The short-term bond portfolio is the green dot just below the boxes. The blue dot is the DEX universe total return, which many of you have as your policy set duration. And up in the top you can see the pink dot, which represents the credit arbitrage strategy. They take no duration risk. Over on the far side, on past this vertical gray line, are the 4 one-year periods that make up this 4-year number. And again, you can see this pink dot has consistently earned money, while the DEX universe duration in the most current 4-year period has now started to lose money. And as interest rates go up, you can expect that to continue. Shown another way, this is the risk return chart. So you have the returns going along the y-axis and volatility along the x-axis. And you can see that the green dot is in the bottom left corner, which means low return for low risk. The red dot has more return, again low risk. The blue dot has average return for average risk, while the pink dot has a lot more return for just a little bit more risk. And more importantly, those around the pink dot out here that have also earned this same return are taking a lot of duration. So when and if interest rates rise, all of these dots are going to do very, very poorly, while this pink dot will not. So the strategy works, but what about the regulators? For those in the insurance world, the regulators are very important. Well, we visited with some regulators, and we don't by no means have the definitive answer, but we've had some comments from them. And one of the first things that they said to us is, we understand your concern. They know interest rates are at generational lows. They know that interest rates are about to rise. And so they understand the concern of what to do with this bond portfolio. They also said, we like the process you're using of doing due diligence on the varying strategies available to you. And it's the case because the zero duration strategy, they said they would like the impact to your MCT, because the MCT response was positive for those that had a short duration on their liabilities. But most importantly, they said, we like that you're trying to not surprise us. They don't like surprises. They want to be informed that you're looking at new ideas. They want to be informed what these ideas are, so they have time to look at them as well. So the decision that needs to be made is it time to shorten your duration? The reason to shorten your duration, the interest rate shock test, if you're not matched for your liabilities already, there's one reason. The risk of rising interest rates and the losses to your portfolio is a very good reason. And then which way do we shorten duration? Classic strategies, new strategies, and what does this mean for your investment committee? Well, it means education. Investment committees need to educate themselves on the interest rate impact to their portfolios, what new strategies are available, the new risks involved in these new strategies, and how to mitigate these risks. This takes education, and that's the job of the investment committee, to look to new ideas and be educated about them. When it comes to governance, what are you looking at? Are you looking at the rearview mirror saying we've always made good returns in bonds? Or are you looking forward and saying, if interest rates rise, we're going to lose a lot of money? You need to decide, what are you looking at? You've been warned. Like the flood forecasters in Winnipeg, the warning's been put out that interest rates are going to rise. We don't know when, and we don't know by how much, but you have been warned. Change is coming. You have options. You can do nothing. You can look to new strategies. Evaluate your options and decide if you are prepared. This farmer built a nice dike. Their patio is high and dry while water is all around it. Is your portfolio protected? That's the question. Thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, please email us at info@global-i-s.com. We'd be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.